It's cold in Spain today, and I've got a bit of a cold coming, so I've got a nice cup of coffee, and I thought we would sit down and do a bit of editing together. This is going to be a new series where I basically share my opinions and tips and tricks that I use after kind of 8-9 months of making a YouTube channel. Sort of, you know, this video is going to be how I edit. I'll do another one about how I come up with topics, and not because I think that I'm any kind of guru, but because I really think that this kind of like peer reviews or peer experiences and stuff like that just gives you another take on how to do things. So it's not that I think that I'm particularly competent at this stuff, but it's just that there'll be little things that I do that you might be able to take into your own work process that will just help you create YouTube videos. Okay, so first of all, let's go through these 3 tips. So number 1 is to just keep the home video effect in the back of your mind while you're making your videos. I don't know if you've ever been forced to sit through a home video with your girlfriend, or if you've ever tried to get someone else to sit through a home video of your own. Now, what tends to happen is that any footage or video footage or anything that has you in it, by its very nature has like a particular entertainment value for you. So you might be watching an old Christmas video of you unwrapping presents on the floor. Nothing particularly funny happens or anything like that. It's just that you're getting to watch yourself as a young child just doing every, you know, a Christmas activity of unwrapping presents, and that by itself is enough to entertain you. If you uploaded that to YouTube, it would just tank, because to them it's just a kid opening Christmas presents, nothing funny happens, there's no particular content, the video would just tank. So you need to keep that in mind and give yourself like a factor in your head where, or just watch yourself while you're editing and watching your own videos. If you pick up your phone and do something while one of your videos is playing, it means that you're bored by your own video. Someone else that's watching your video who doesn't have that vested interest like you do, because it's not them that's in the video, they moved on to another video a long time ago if you've picked up your phone. So just keep that in mind, keep that home video effect in your mind at all times. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to try and be a viewer instead of the creator while you edit your own videos. What you do when you edit a video in Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro or whatever the software is that you use is you're watching your own footage over and over again. Now, what I tend to do is keep in mind that if you put like a really entertaining video on, watched it once, you'll be really entertained. If you try and watch that same video 5 times in half an hour, a 5-minute video 5 times in half an hour, you'll get really bored, and you need to keep that in mind when you're editing your own videos. Now, this is a really good way of stripping a load of footage right down into a really action-packed video. But if you're like an everyday vlogger or an everyday mountain biker who vlogs his rides or her rides, then if you do many more, like I try to stick to 3 views. So if I do 3 views of a video, so I'll do a rough edit, a final edit, and then like a final viewing afterwards, I find that that's quite a good number of times to view it, where you become a little bit bored by certain parts, so you cut them out, but where you aren't so critical that you lose a load of content and it takes a really long time to upload sort of daily or every other day videos. On the other hand, if you really want every single video to just be non-stop action, then maybe you want to be viewing your videos between 5 and 10 times, because what happens then is, because you're watching it so frequently, any little bit that gets you even slightly bored gets cut out, and what you end out with in the end is like a really action-packed video that you still find interesting after 10 views, so that you can probably bet good money on that someone watching it for the first time on YouTube is going to find really interesting. So that's tip number 2, is try and be a viewer while you edit. And then tip number 3 is just take a rest before you do your final watch. After watching it so many times during the edit, it's worth just taking an hour or 2, leaving your computer, going and doing something totally different that entertains you. Don't go away and just think about your video. Go away and watch a video, watch a movie, go for a walk, whatever. Just have a rest of an hour or 2 from the editing process before you watch your final edit. Then sit down with a clear mind, watch the video, which will feel kind of like the first time again, and then you'll get a really good idea of whether it's a good video or not. So that's my 3 quick tips for editing. So now let's move into my workflow for editing. So what I'll do is I'll use this clip that I've just recorded now and edit it on my PC and show you my 10 steps. There's basically 10 steps that I follow every time that I edit, and it works really well for me. So let's jump into the PC and we'll start editing this little clip that I've recorded now. Okay guys, so here we are in the computer. So the first thing we need to do is transfer our files from the memory cards onto your computer. Now this is obviously a very simple process, but if you don't organize things properly, you can end up with files all over the place. So what I've done is I've created my new folder here, and what I do when I name these folders is I put the English date, so month, day, month, year, and I reverse it, because then that's always an ascending number. What you run the risk of if you do it the other way around is all of the firsts of the months will bunch up. If you do it like, if you keep your files like I do for every single video, all of the videos will go out of order because of the date being in the right order, so day, month, year. So if you just reverse it, it keeps the numbers descending all the time, and it makes it, or ascending all the time, and it makes it so as they stay in order. That's just a little tip there. And then when you go in the file, I would normally have Canon is my vlogging camera. I record sound externally, and then I would normally have a GoPro box as well there. And that just keeps all your files really organized. So what I'm going to do is, this would normally be coming off the SD card, but that's my video clip going into the Canon, that's my sound clip going in there. And then what I'll also do is just show you a little tip for transferring GoPro footage from your files into Premiere Pro as well. This is like a pretty typical GoPro set of files. You have these LRV files, THM files as well. You need to transfer all of that off your GoPro normally, or I do, otherwise they sometimes get corrupt. But once you've got them on your PC, when you transfer them, or on a hard drive, once you transfer them into Premiere Pro, you just transfer the MP4 files. Now what GoPro does, if the easiest way I find to do it is if you organize it by file top by clicking that tab there. That puts all of your MP4 files in a bunch. But what GoPro does is it names the files really badly, and so that doesn't work, but 974 there, there's two other clips that, because the GoPro will only record 8 minutes and 30 seconds or something at a time before it then starts a new video file in the camera, it splits it up. So this has been split up into 3 sections. So if I just highlight all of these and drag and drop them across, the next set of video for 974 is miles away in Premiere Pro, and it just messes up all the organization. So this is what I do. So I would transfer 73 now over into Premiere Pro, do all of the 74s, that one, click on the top file, drag that across, so that will keep them in the same order, do all of your 75s the same way, and just go through all of your files like that. And then when you go to Premiere Pro, it'll all be in the correct order. So that's just a little tip for transferring files. We're not going to have a GoPro folder, so that's my files on the machine now, on my solid state hard drive in the PC, which is the best way to edit. So let's open Premiere Pro. So now I'm in Premiere Pro, I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to put the date in back to front, so as it keeps all of my project files in the right order wherever you file them on your computer. And then I'm going to call it How I Edit Videos again. I've actually called that video. But that doesn't matter for this. It matters when you export the video. The raw file, what you actually name the video when you export the video, it needs to be the same name as you give the video. It just makes it better for SEO. So right, I'll come to that, I'll mention that again in a minute. So the first thing I do is create a new bin and call it raw files, because I have to merge all my files together. So let's put my video in there, and let's put my sound clip in there. So the second thing, oh, that's not gone in there. So the second thing I do is I create another bin, and I call this merged files. This basically is what I edit out of then, and then you have another one for B-roll if you've got loads of B-roll, for text overlay if you've got another one. It just keeps it a bit more organised. Okay, so on this relatively simple video, this is all I need to do. This is all my footage transferred and imported, which is step 1 complete. Like I say, you'd have more folders for the various different things. I just find it easier to keep things separate when I come to do my editing. So step number 2 is to merge your files and sort your files. Now this is going to be easy again for this one. So the way you merge sound, audio and video files on Premiere Pro is you highlight both videos. All as I've done there is I pressed Shift to highlight them both. Right click, press merge clips. I always name it merged 1. This is going to be the only merge in this one, but I might have up to merge 10 when I do my external recording on my rides and I've got loads of GoPro clips. Change this to audio if the audio is good enough on whatever you're recording. I know that the G7X sound is good, so this method is going to work. On audio, click the use timecode from clip, so it will just use the audio to sync the clips up, and then remove audio from AV clip. That removes the audio from the video clip itself and just keeps the audio from the external recording device. Press OK. That puts your merged clip in there. Let's just check that that has merged together correctly. Yep, it has. And then before I put it on the timeline, I'm going to cut it out of there and put it in my merged files bin. Now the reason I put them in bins like this is because if you've got GoPro footage, BRoll footage, all kinds of different footage, and you want it to show up differently on the timeline, is you can select every single clip in one whole box by clicking on the first one, clicking shift on the last one. It highlights all, so if you've got 100 clips in there, it'll highlight them all. Right click, press label, pick a colour, blue for example, and what that then does is it changes the colour of your clip on the timeline to blue. So if I add, GoPro footage next to this and I turned it green, you'd just be able to very clearly see the different colours of your clips on the timeline. That works quite well for just so as you can have a nice smooth looking timeline and you can see all the different clips as different colours. It works really well. And then obviously if I add another file, another bin here full of other clips, I do the same, change the colour of that. Just a really nice way of doing it. So that's step 2, that's all my files merged and sorted. Again, this is not a very complex project, so it's going to be very simple, but you can see how this really helps when you do a much larger project. So step number 3 would be, now if you were editing an intro or editing the whole video to music, this is when you would want to stick music on your file. This isn't going to be an action video, so I'm not going to be changing scenes of me riding to a beat, so I don't need to put music in, but this is where you want to put your music in. So straight away when you're editing to music. That's the way I do it anyway. You can switch it around a little bit and go to step 4, which is a rough edit, a rough cut, but that's not how I do it. So this would be step 3, adding your music into here, so as when you start editing, you're editing to the beat of the music. So that takes us to step 4. Step 4 is your rough cut. So this is done as quick as you can. This is how I do it anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a rough cut of this video, cut out all the spaces, all the stuff that's not relevant, and just get it in the right order if I've added bits later on that need to be earlier on in the video. So this is how I rough cut a video. Okay guys, so what we have there is what was that, step number 4? That's step number 4, the rough cut done, and that's my first view. So the reason I do a real quick rough cut first is because not only are you editing the video and getting rid of all of the content that is not important for the video, that's boring or mistakes. Not only am I doing that, but I'm also doing a really quick viewing and getting a feel for the story, making sure that everything's in the right order, making sure that the video progresses as it should do through the content that I'm trying to put out. So that's really important, that first rough cut. It's because it's also your first view of the video. So now we go on to the final cut. Now it's not the final cut because I've added nothing to this video yet, but it's the final cut in terms of before I start overlaying text or overlaying anything at all, B-roll footage. What I want to do now is I want to have another watch of the video from start to finish. This would be, say if you're making a mountain biking video, this would be your mountain bike footage. So I'm going to move on to this now. Little change to that one. This is actually, step 5, but it's final cut, and I also adjust my audio levels during this cut. My Zoom H1 tends to record a little bit quietly, so what I do is I make a duplicate of one of the sound files and paste it in below it just to make it all a bit louder and turn the volumes up and stuff. So this is kind of my final edit / adjusting audio levels. Okay guys, so that's step number 5, my final edit done. Like I say, it's not really my final edit, but it's like your fine-tuning edit of the bulk of your footage, you know. So that takes us on to step number 6, which is B-roll and sort of text overlay or effect, you know, any little bits of extra footage and stuff that you want to overlay the video. Now is the time to do it. So the final edit just now was my second watch, where I started to get bored of certain bits and started cutting them out. This is my third watch, which I would expect to be starting to find little bits and pieces. This isn't very long, so I don't really expect to find that much, but I'm going to watch the whole thing again because I know that there's a few little places that I want to put like text in. So when I do each of my tips, I want to just flash it up in the corner in writing as well. So that's what we're going to do this time. I've got no B-roll to overlay onto this one until I start editing the full video in a minute, when I've got my screenshots and stuff like that to edit the full video, but we're just editing the first bit of this video at the minute. So let's move on to this now. So step number 6 is to add B-roll and add text as you go through your third and kind of final viewing for now. Okay, so that was step number 6. So now that I've put over my text, or you guys have put over your B-roll footage, whatever you need to add on top, step number 7 is to do your color correction. Now, I think that this is a really important step in any video. So because my footage throughout the course of this video is all the same, it's all me sat in the same place over like the same, like over a really short period of time, so the light isn't changing or anything like that, I can do a color correction for the whole video and just maybe bring contrast up a little bit, maybe drop the exposure, just play with the color a little bit. I've actually got some LUTs that I use, preset type things, and I've also created my own kind of LUT for this as well. When it just plays with the exposure a little bit. It normally works quite well and just makes the video look better. So we're going to do that now. Let's do some color correcting. Now, the reason I do color correction this late in the process is because if you're on a PC that runs slightly slow, when you add a color correction, it makes it run even slower. So if you get all your editing out of the way before you put the color correction in there, you don't have to watch it all the way through again, because we've done 3 viewings. You just need to have a quick scan through and make sure the color stays good throughout the course of the video. If the color's not changing, if the lighting's not changing, it's going to be fine. So it's just good to do it late in the process, so as you don't affect how fast and how smooth your video footage is running during the edit. So let's do that now. Okay, so the best way to do this is to add an adjustment layer. Instead of color correcting every individual file, make sure that your adjustment layer is the correct size and frame rate and everything. Click OK. Click OK, and then drag it onto your timeline above everything else, unless you've got B-roll that you don't want to be affected by the colors, so you stick it in between. But I've only got text there, which it won't affect too much, so I'm going to drag that all the way through the whole course of the video right to the end. And then see, that's quite a good picture actually, my hands in it and everything. This is quite a good part or frame for me to edit my color against. So go to your color settings. What I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to, so you've got these here, the videos online for how you use these properly. I don't know properly. I think you're aiming for kind of the center here, so you make adjustments over here and try and get that in the center. I'm not sure, I just do it by looking at the picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try adding a little bit of temperature there, see what that does. Just give it a little bit. Then I'm going to give it a little bit of down. Let's have a look at that as 0 again. So yeah, I think that could do with being brought down a little bit, the exposure. Sorry, down. Not quite that much. Let's see. Now the good thing with doing it as an adjustment layer is you can just get rid of it straight away. See how I'm toggling my effects on and off. So let's go just down a fraction more with the exposure. Up with the contrast a little bit, up to 5. Toggle that on and off, just making me look a little bit less blown out there. A little bit less on the exposure. A bit more on the temperature maybe. Up to 10. I didn't pick a very good moment with my face for this, but okay, another one that I like to look at is vignette, see what this does. I quite like that because it just puts a bit more focus. What it does is if you put it up, it puts like a white circle around you. If you put it down, it puts like a black circle around you, kind of. If you just go for a little bit of that, what it does is it just puts, you know, it draws the attention to you a little bit. It takes the attention out of the background and puts it on you. So I normally go for a bit of that. I think I'm going to go for about 2 on that. I think that will do. Now if we toggle that on and off, see, I think that looks much better. Perhaps it could do with a little bit less down on the contrast. Yeah, I like that. So we're going to go for that as my color correction. So step number 8 for me is to select the thumbnail. After I've done my color adjustment, that's my video pretty much ready for exporting. I go through the video and select a still for my thumbnail. Like when I'm riding, you select a still of me riding, and that becomes my thumbnail. That means that I can edit it while the video is exporting. That's just my workflow. Yeah, so that's step number 8, to select a still for your thumbnail. So that takes us on to step number 9, which is exporting your video. I will show you my export settings. Yeah, so let's go back in the computer and I'll show you that now. Okay, so my edit is done. So I go to export. Obviously I'm not going to actually export it now because I need to add my own, this footage that I'm recording now onto it. So you go to media. Okay, so select your file. I go back into my big filing system with this, and then you go to final edits, YouTube edits, folder. Again, I date this in reverse so as it all stays in the right order. Call it how I edit videos, and then you go in, and then when you do your file name, make sure that you get this. I mean, you can change it afterwards as it happens, but make sure your raw file that you upload has the same name as what you're going to call it on YouTube, because what that does is it improves the SEO of the video apparently. So that's saved. Now what you need to do is H.264 up there. If I've recorded in 1080p, so this is a 1080p video, so I'm going to go YouTube 1080p and let it sort it out for me. I don't do a custom render export because these settings are really good. If I'm doing 4K, I'll click 4K, but I'm going to click 1080p. Make sure you select the one that you recorded in, because and edited in, because if you get it to do kind of a crunch for you and then you stick it on YouTube and that does a crunch, it just affects the overall quality of your video. So then I don't touch any of this, because once you click one of those, it changes this to custom up here and it changes how it's being exported. So just go 1080p HD and then I hit export, and that's how I export all of my videos. If it's 4K, I click 4K, but that's how I do it. And then the 10th and final step, which isn't something I can show you, is once I've got my video exported and it's a proper MP4 file, I'll stick it full screen on my computer. I've got a big 27-inch screen here that I watch it on, and I watch the thing from start to finish after I've had like an hour or two break. Now you might say that that's stupid, you should do your final view in your editing software, but that makes no sense to me, because you may as well double up checking your exported video before you upload it onto YouTube with doing your final viewing, because you'll watch it, it's full screen, you can see everything properly, you'll see any mistakes much more clearly, and you're checking your footage as you go to make sure it doesn't pixelate or anything like that through like a bad render or export. So that's my final step, is I watch my video as an MP4. If it's all good, then I start uploading. If it's not, I go back into my editing software, go back to step sort of whatever, and just take out the bit that needs to not be there, export it again and do the final viewing again a bit later. So that's my 10 steps for how I edit a video, guys. I hope that that's really useful for you guys. It's a workflow that works really well for me. Keep those tips in mind as well if you're getting, especially the one if you're getting bored by your own video. If you're getting bored at any point by your own video, then a viewer has moved on to the next video and they probably won't give you a second look. So just keep that in mind. This is a little series that I'm going to do for other mountain bike YouTube creators. So it's not really mountain bike related, it's more YouTube creator related, so I don't expect to get so many views on these, but I hope it helps my fellow mountain bike YouTubers out. If you make the same kind of content, I'll be happy to watch and get tips for myself. Again, it's not because I feel like I'm a guru, I just think it's good to see how other people do things so as you can implement things into your own workflow. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. That's it. On your bikes.